Hello creators, it's Melissa with Melissa's Creations, and today I am going to show you how to make this adorable little gift box. So I have the sugar scrub that my husband made for his mom and sister in here. It's a vanilla sugar scrub and it's in a little tin. And I wanted to make a fun, cute little package to go with it. So we have a window here, and I have used some of the gorgeous Succulent designer series paper on the box. And I also have some little petals from our glimmer paper, so cute, with some ribbon in the sweet sugar plum, and then just this fun little gift tag right up here on the top. So let's get started making this super cute gift. So the papers I'm using today, I have a piece of 12 by 12 Calypso Coral. This is from the Subtles collection. I have a piece of that gorgeous Succulent designer series paper that is available in the Occasions catalog right now. And I also have a square of the gorgeous glimmer paper that is a celebration item. Okay, let's start with the base of the box first. So I have my 12 by 12 piece of cardstock here, and the first thing I want to do is cut that down to 11.5 inches square. So I'm going to cut off a 1/2 inch from both sides, from two different sides here. So cut off a 1/2 inch from this side, and then rotate it 90 degrees and cut a 1/2 inch from this side. So now our square is 11.5 inches. And now on this part, I'm gonna do it on my scoreboard because I think it's a little easier to have a larger surface to work with. So all we're going to do, super simple, is score it at 2 and 4 on all sides. Once you have your paper scored, we're going to cut away these corner sections here. Now, if you want to use scissors, that's totally up to you. I'm going to use my paper trimmer because I think it's a little quicker. So I'm just going to line up that inner score line. So this is the 4-inch line, it's the inside. I'm just gonna line up the inside score line here, and I'm going to bring my cutting blade down to the 4-inch mark. And then I'm going to run my cutting blade down on the bottom half. So I'm going to run my cutting blade up, and it's basically the 8.5 inch mark. But you're just wanting to cut it up to that score line right there. So this is essentially what I have on this side. Now I'm going to do the same thing on these two ends to cut away that square. And so this cross is what you should have when you're done. Now we want to cut this at an angle. And the easiest way to do that, and you could do this step when it's still a full sheet, when you're doing the rest of your score. I just forgot to do that, so bonus. I'm gonna do it now. So I'm going to put a little mark at the 5 3/4 inch mark right here. So I'm just going to do a tiny little divot right in the center of each of these pieces here. All right, so moving back again to the trimmer, and again, to save yourself from having to move your items around too much, you would do this all of the scoring and making the divots on one point, and then you do all of your trimming on another point. Okay, so I have lined up that little divot that I made and the score line right here with the track on my trimmer. So now I can chop off those triangular pieces, and then you're just going to rotate it and line up that point and line up this score line in your trimmer again. Working with a limited area. Okay, and once you have those lined up, trim it off, and you have a point like this. Now you're going to do that for all of the remaining sides. So I'm going to take one of those extra pieces that we cut away from our template for our box, and I'm going to trim this down so that it measures 3.5 square. I'm not worried about the score lines because most of this will be covered up. We're just gonna see the very ends. Now it's time to trim our beautiful designer series paper. And to get the most use out of this paper, this is how you're going to want to cut it. So the first cut you wanna make is at 3 3/8. Then you're going to rotate it and cut it at 1 7/8. And you need a total of 4 pieces that size. So there's 1, 2, 3, and now with this piece we're going to cut it at 3 3/8, and then cut it down to 1 7/8. So now I have 4 pieces that all measure 1 7/8 by 3 3/8, and then I have a square that measures 2 5/8 inch, and then I have this leftover piece here. So the only scrap that I have, the only waste that I have, this should have been 1 piece, but the only scrap that I have is this. That's really not bad. That is not very wasteful, and that's what I'm looking for. All right, so now I'm gonna use just a couple pieces of scrap paper. This is a piece of Whisper White cardstock. I'm gonna cut this down, and the size doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna use this at 3 1/2, and this is about 1 inch wide. And then I have a scrap of Sweet Sugar Plum, which is a coordinating color in here. You can use any of the colors in the designer series paper. So this piece specifically has Calypso Coral, Tip Top Taupe, Old Olive, Mint Macaron, and that gorgeous Sweet Sugar Plum. So I'm pulling that color out. So I'm just going to cut this down to measure, about, let's do 1.25 inches. And the length of this is 2 1/2. And I'm actually going to cut down this piece of Whisper White scrap so that it's a little thinner. I just want 1/2 inch. All right, before we get started on the rest of our project, we're going to do a little bit of big shot work. So first thing I want to do is grab my May Flowers Framelits dies, and I'm going to use this gorgeous piece here and this little guy right here. First of all, we're going to cut this out on that beautiful Bermuda Bay glimmer paper. And I'm going to cut the little guy out, just put him right up there in the corner. And I'm gonna run this through about 3 times to make sure I get a really good cut. All right, now you wanna keep all those little pieces, don't get rid of them. We're going to be using those on our card. So I'm going to pop all those out, but I'm going to save them. So I'll do that in a minute. Okay, so before we put this guy away, we are going to be cutting out an oval from one of the sides, whichever side we want to be our front. So before I cut it out, I want to put a piece of my designer series paper onto the side that I'm going to be cutting. So I'm going to adhere this panel right down here. I'm only going to adhere it in the corners and at the very edge. And to do that, I'm going to use some multi-purpose liquid glue. I want to try and keep the center as clear from adhesive as possible. All right, so now we're going to cut a oval framelit from this section here. And to do that, to get it to go through the big shot far enough, all we're going to do is fold these flaps in. So you're gonna fold the triangle and then fold the flap, just so it tucks right underneath itself like this. Now we can set this down, pick out our framelit, and I'm using one of the ovals from the Layering Ovals Framelits dies. And I want it to be relatively smaller than the front, so I'm gonna try this guy. And let's see, that's gonna be perfect. So I'm going to lay my framelit down. Now you could secure this in place with a sticky note, or you can use your magnetic plate, but I'm just gonna eyeball it and see what happens. I like to live dangerously. How about you? All right, so I have it secured down there. I'm holding the end of this box with my thumb, and I'm going to take my other cutting plate, and I'm just going to set it right on top, just so that it covers, and it's split a little bit, so let me readjust. It's part of the process, right? All right, I'm just going to cover enough so that it covers where it's going to cut. So I don't have it past that first score line. So then I'm going to run that through, and I'm not gonna go all the way, just enough until I hear that click. And then I'm gonna pull the plate out, and there is my beautiful window. But also, I didn't want to adhere these pieces together because I want to use this piece on my project. And now I can use this piece on the tag. All right, so I'm going to adhere the rest of my panels to these pieces like so. And you can either use the liquid glue to do that, or you can use good old-fashioned fast fuse or snail. All right, now I'm going to adhere my DSP square to that remaining square that I cut out when I cut my template for my box. If you'd like, you can use a contrasting color here. This is going to go on the inside of our box, down on the bottom. I just like to put a little bit more heft in that area, especially if I'm going to put something a little heavier. So I'm going to adhere that into the middle. And then you want to make sure that you crease all of those score lines. So I'm going to lightly crease the triangular pieces, but I'm going to heavily crease the bottom pieces. If you'd like to put a window sheet on, now is the time to do it. You can either put it on the inside, or you can put it on the front panel before you put the Designer Series paper down. That way the extra is in between these two pieces and you won't see it when you open it up this way. I'm using the 3/16 inch side of my Crop-A-Dile, that hole punch, and I'm going to put a little hole at the top of each triangle. So I'm going to match up two sides so that I know that they're in the same place. And I'm just going to punch a hole right in the middle there. And then do the same with the other two sides. So this is where our paper piercer and all of our little bits from that glimmer paper flower are going to come in. So get all those little bits out, and we're going to use every last one of them. All right, so this flower now is going to become part of my tag for the top, but we want to focus on all these little petals first. What we're going to do with these is glue them all over on our tag as well as on each of the points of our box. And to do that, I will be using some of our fine tip liquid glue. So I'm going to put about, I don't know, 8 dabs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to do one section at a time. And if you want to use tweezers, that is totally fine. I'm doing this first because these will take a little bit longer to dry. And if I want to do my project all in one sitting, you want to get this on as soon as possible so that it has lots of dry time. And it'll seem like they won't want to stick, but I promise once you get them down and let them sit, they will be so super strong. So I'm just putting all the little petals on, and it'll take me a little bit of time to get this done, but for you, it'll only be a matter of seconds. So let's get fast forwarding. And once you have all of your corners done, then we're going to put the remaining onto our little tag. Now we're going to set these pieces aside so that they can get all nice and happy and stuck together. And we're going to do some stamping. So here are all of our beautiful extra pieces. Now this piece here, I would write my label and I would attach to my tin that I'm going to be putting inside. So I'm going to save this piece for when I'm ready to do that. And the stamp set I'm using is of course perfectly wrapped because it's just so gorgeous and I love it. So I am going to use the word a little and gift because this is a little gift for our family. Get out a couple of acrylic blocks and pick up those stamps. And I want to pull out the other colors. So I'm going to use mint macaron on my Whisper white piece, and that's where I'm going to stamp a little. And don't stamp it all the way off to the right, stamp it in a little bit because we're going to punch a hole in one side and we're going to banner cut the other. I will also be using Tip Top Taupe to stamp the word gift onto my sweet sugar plum piece. Now grab your hole punch again, and I'm going to put these all into a stack, and I'm putting my designer series piece on the bottom, and then I'm going to bring in very carefully because this is still wet, so you want to be careful with that piece, but I'm going to bring this one in. And I'm just lining up all of my pieces right up here on the top so I can punch that hole. And then we'll put this one on the top here. Okay, now punch your hole. Okay, now I'm going to set this one back aside so it can dry. But now I have all of my pieces ready to go. So I'm going to take my snips so I can do some banner cuts. Now once your pieces are dry and those little guys are stuck in place, then we can put your little gift inside. And I just picked these tins up from a local craft store. So I'm going to put that inside. And I'm not ready to yet, but this is where I would attach my beautiful little label to my tin to give it a little bit of extra and decorate the whole top, but that is a total another video. Just focusing on the box today. I could get sidetracked so easy though. And now I want to choose the ribbon that I'm going to tie everything up with, and taking some of the colors that are in the designer series paper, I'm going to use the sweet sugar plum. And there's not really a right or a wrong way to thread these through, but basically I want to start and end at the front, and the front is the piece that has the window cut out. So I'm going to thread it through there first, and then I'm just going to go in from the front on all sides. And just an FYI, once you thread the ribbon through, you want to probably make sure that you don't need to get into the gift again. So do the ribbon very last. All right, so now when I get back around to the beginning, I'm going to thread that ribbon through the front again. And it will make, and you're just going to want to kind of fiddle around with the box until it holds the shape that you want. And because of the box construction, it's not a perfect box. It's not going to stay perfectly on the sides. And that's not what I was going for. I was really just going for the shape and the roof, if you will. So now I'm going to tie my little bow, snip off the end of that ribbon. Now I'm going to bring in some of my linen thread. And we're going to take a length of that. And it doesn't have to be much. About that much will do. You just need enough to tie your tags onto the top. So I'm going to double the thread up on itself. And then I'm going to start building my tag. So you want to start from the top to the bottom. So this is on top, and then this piece, and then my circle, my oval piece, and my accent designer series paper, and then finally that beautiful glimmer flower. Okay, so now I have them all strung on there. So I have my loop on the end. I'm going to pull the tails through the loop, just like this. And before I tie it onto my package, I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to give my banners a little curl. So this, I'm going to curl this way. And the gift, I'm going to curl the opposite direction. So I'm going to turn this around like this. And I don't want it to be too curly, just a little bit, just to give it a little bit of interest. And then let's just curl the end of this guy here. And you kind of do want to separate it out a little bit so you can see each one of those gorgeous pieces. And now I'm just going to take some glue dots and put 2 on the back of that guy, and then put him right over that opening there, just to kind of hide the hole and keep everything in place. So now I can take my tag and I want to offset it so that I can still see through the opening in the front. So I'm going to tie it off to the side over here like this. And then I'm going to cross around that bow and bring it back to the front to tie my bow. And there we go. There's our beautiful little package for our custom made gift. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you can be notified of future videos, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought today. You can visit me on the web at melissascreations.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/mcreations. Thank you so much, and I hope you give this awesome project a try. See you later.